Hello, everybody, and welcome to this next video that I have planned for you guys. This is the Resident Evil tier game list here, and I got a special guest with us today. Say hello, Haruko.
What is up? What is up, everybody? So glad to be joining Alan for this video. We've been planning this video out for like 2 or 3 weeks now, so it's glad to finally get to it. Why don't you tell them how we're gonna do this, Alan?
Well, the thing is here, we're gonna go from best game to worst game here, and obviously, Haruko knows how I am. There might be a few controversial, picks in there, but it's all fun and games, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not a Resident Evil diehard. I'm not a diehard or anything, so I don't really have like a gatekeeper sense to where like, oh well, this game did this, and it was so. I just if I like a game, I like a game. If I don't like it, I don't like it. It's all based on the enjoyment I got out of the game. So it's all subjective. I think people hopefully should understand that it's all subjective, and somebody else's opinion on a video game should not bother you so much.
Exactly. And that's why I make these videos because I know I can feel comfy putting out my opinions. And obviously, if you're gonna troll, you're gonna get banned. That's just all there is to it. Man. I'm sorry. I just gotta say that. But we are gonna get started here, and this one is an easy one. Now, I have a great big history with this game, speed running. You know, everything and doing challenge runs, and I'm extra hyped for the remake to be coming out here soon. And my first game, best game of all time, is Resident Evil 4.
Wow, that's a big way to start off. Obviously, I've never played Resident Evil 4, the original Resident Evil 4, so when the remake comes out, that'll probably be like the first experience I have with the game as a whole, if that makes sense. But I mean, yeah, I'm from what I hear, it's a great game, and it's like really changed the way people see Resident Evil, and influenced a lot of games even today. So, but who knows, And it could be terrible. Psych, 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 psych. But
um,
yeah, that's great. Obviously, for my number one, I'm gonna have to go with clearly Resident Evil 2, the remake version, and I'll just put the original up there too, since I pretty much rate them the same. Resident Evil 2 has always been my favorite ever since I first played it on PS1 Classics Edition on the PlayStation 3. I was a little kid back then, so I had no idea what I was doing, but I still enjoyed the game a lot, and it still stuck with me. Big fan of Leon Kennedy, big fan of Claire Redfield. I like that dynamic so much. I like the way their characterization has been, especially in the remake. They kind of reinvented Claire a little bit, and I actually like that direction that they're taking her character in. Hopefully, we get a Code Veronica remake, but obviously we'll get to that later. So yeah, that's the best, the two best for me so far at S rank, Resident Evil 2 and the remake.
all right, for my next game, I want to put Resident Evil 2 remake on the S rank, but I don't think I can do that. But Resident Evil 2 original, I can definitely do that. Why? Because this is the game. Before Resident Evil 4, I spent many hours on Resident Evil 2, and this has a great history with me as well because I used to speed run Resident Evil 2 as well. So it's just these two games that have taken most of my time, and this is why in the Q&A video I decided to pick Claire over Jill is because I have more exposure to Resident Evil 2. So that's no disrespect to Jill. Jill's a badass, but got to go with my girl Claire here. And Resident Evil 2 is my next best game.
Also in that rank, I'm gonna put Code Veronica. Code Veronica is such a great game. Obviously, I just mentioned earlier that I would like to see a remake of this game more than any other Resident Evil game right now. And it's really interesting because apparently this game was originally supposed to be the big sequel to Resident Evil, or the big follow up to Resident Evil 2. It kind of got reshuffled into a spin off, but I actually think it's better than what actually became Resident Evil 3. In my humble opinion, I think it's better than what became Resident Evil 3. And just everything about the game, the setting is so chilling. The gameplay in itself, the opening sequence is just so fucking beautiful. It's hard to put into words how I feel about this game, but Jesus, I love it. I love everything about it.
That's a very good pick. Just recently, I finally picked back up Code Veronica X, and I really felt the same way that you felt. It's just everything just comes together so nicely with that game, and I'm with you. I hope there is a remake in the future. But as far as my next pick goes here, this one's little bit of a toughie here, and I'm gonna have to go with one more S rank tier here, and that is the Resident Evil 1 original. Yes. Now, you thought I would be saying the remake, but eh, you know, I love the remake. Don't get me wrong. That's probably going to be on my A rank list. But to me, this is where it all started. Without the original, we would have none of these other Resident Evil games out here. It has the most sentimental value to me because I started directly when the first game came out. So honestly, this is gonna have the biggest impact on me when it comes to how I got started in this very, very epic series so far.
I thought you were gonna say the remake too. That kind of caught me off guard. I was waiting, like when you paused, I was waiting for the remake part, but I mean, yeah, that caught me off guard there. I don't really have any other ones that would rank S at this point in time. So I'm just gonna go down to my A's. I'm gonna start off at Resident Evil Zero. This was the second Resident Evil game I played. I was probably like 5 or 6 years old. I played this on the GameCube. It was the second Resident Evil game I played. Again, I had no idea what I was bloody doing, but I was just doing it anyway. I didn't know anything about the mechanics. I wasn't very good at the game, but I still had fun with it, and it was really it still resonates with me to this day, as I have all these early memories of playing it and just seeing how far the series has come since then. It's weird because I kind of played them out of order. I played this one second, but I played Resident Evil Remake first. I think in chronological order, correct me if I'm wrong, Resident Evil 0 comes before Resident Evil. So, yeah, that's just kind of weird, though. Fun fact, though.
Well, now that I talked about the original Resident Evil, we're going to talk about the remake now because that is my first A rank. And this remake was so beautifully done that people still talk about it plenty today, that it still holds up to today's standards, and that's saying a lot.
Oh yeah.
That is. But now we also have people talking about wanting a remake, and I was like, yeah, I mean, a Resident Evil remake, or however you want to call it, would probably look really good on the RE engine. But right now, in my opinion, I don't think it needs remaked yet. Maybe wait another 5 years or so. But that is my first A rank tier game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm gonna add Resident Evil Remake to my A rank as well, just because, again, it was my introduction to the entire series. I mean, I died on the first enemy because I had no idea what the hell I was doing, but yeah, just everything about the game, like when I first booted up, how just like unsettling it was. I had shivers up my spine. I mean, I was really terrified as a 5-year-old kid playing this game. I still played it, but man, was it like so nerve-wracking. Everything about it, just the atmosphere, the soundtrack, down to the character model, so everything was animated. It really captured that survivor horror feel. I mean, it is literally the father of survival horror. So,
Oh, right. Yeah, I agree. Just like I think I had the same problem on that first enemy too. So, with that being said, I'm gonna go on and I'm gonna place Resident Evil Village as an tier list. Now, hear me out on this. Third person view probably would have been a C rank, or first person view probably would have been a C rank. But when they put that third person view in, that pretty much that skyrocketed a little bit because the third person view just really took it home for me when it came to Village, and I think that's really how Resident Evil games should be played as third person. I'm not digging the whole first person perspective. I mean, it doesn't. Maybe if you're playing a game on VR, sure, that first person view might be pretty decent. But when you're playing without the VR, I feel like it takes away from all the surroundings and everything else. But not only that, there is some things that I really liked about the DLC. They made the mercenaries a lot better than it was, and the overall story, finally finishing the Winter's saga, so to speak, was perfectly done. So that's why I'm gonna give that the A rank.
I'm just gonna add them both in Resident Evil Dark Side Chronicles and Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles. I had these games on the Wii around the time they first dropped, and oh my god, I mean, these games are fun. Like, yeah, they're on rail shooters, and those usually have a bad rap, I guess. But man, I mean, just the games are fun. I like the way they kind of retell the events of some of Resident Evil's iconic moments. I like I like the graphics. I don't know, just the game. It's just fun. I mean, I I don't really need like a cinematic masterpiece or anything. Every single time I want to pick up and play a game. But again, this is just my enjoyment of it. And in terms of enjoyment, I mean, I had hella fun with these two games. Played the shite out of them on my Wii, and I have fond memories of playing those games. So I'm gonna put them in the A rank.
That was my next option for A rank, and you pretty much said it all for me. They uh they are pretty fun games, and especially I love how they redid some of the stories for the original games here too. That's another thing about these games is that these are games that came out when probably a lot of people didn't have access to the original saga. That's just how I feel about it. So this was a good way to introduce new players to the original saga, and that's why I think it's an A rank to me because they had that in mind. Plus, like Haruko said, the gameplay is fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, and I'm man, I I have to. I've always been so flip floppy on this game. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I hate it. But right now I like it. So I'm gonna put Resident Evil 5 in my A right now. Obviously you and I have played this game many, many,
Yep.
many times on co-op. I've beaten this game many, many times on co-op, and it is a really fun game. It is a really fun game. It's much better in my opinion when you're playing with someone than when you're playing alone.
That
Uh,
is
I know it's in retrospect it gets a lot of rap because it kind of kickstarted Resident Evil being more of an action, more American style franchise than it's survival horror, Japanese roots, I guess if you want to say. Um, I understand that. I understand all those criticisms. They are all valid. But the game is fun, especially when you're playing co-op, especially when you have that other person playing with you and you're figuring stuff out and you're taking down these big titans. And I mean, I gotta admit, it is kind of fun. Yes, some of the bosses can be hella repetitive, but that doesn't it doesn't take away the fun for too long. No boss really overstays its welcome in this game, and no segment really overstays its welcome. I have a lot of fun with this game, is what it comes down to.
yeah. I never understood the bad rep. You look at games like Resident Evil 6. And then you look at games like Resident Evil 5, and Resident Evil 5 compared to Resident Evil 6 to me is like a freaking masterpiece. So,
Yeah, Resident Evil 5. Sorry, playing Resident Evil 6 made me appreciate Resident Evil 5 because, god damn, I was a avid hater of Resident Evil 5 for a long time. I could not stand that game. Then I played Resident Evil 6, and then I went back to play Resident Evil 5, and I'm just like, yeah, I think I'm going to stay back here.
oh man. So for me, I still got a few more A ranks here. So let's get a few of them going here. I'm gonna go with Resident Evil 7 for my next A rank. And I know, like I said, the third person view makes a world of difference. But to me, I feel like Resident Evil 7 was the comeback after 6. So I enjoyed it for what it was. You know, obviously it's not going to be for everybody, because of the first person view. But I think just the whole return to survival horror roots is really what sold me on Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I can't in good conscience rate Resident Evil 7 in my A ranks. And if I did have to add one more A rank, it would probably, for me, probably have to be the original Resident Evil for the PlayStation 1. Obviously, that game is the game that started it all, like you said, and we wouldn't have these other games if that game, wasn't a good game. It all hinged on that being a good game, that being the revolutionary game that it is. So I'm going to have to put that in my A rank right now.
That's a very good choice. Very good choice. For my last A rank, this is a pretty easy one for me. You know, Haruko has this in his S rank, but I'm gonna have this one in my A rank, and that is Resident Evil 2 remake. And the reason why I did not put this in the S rank is, I know that a lot of people really go in on cut content, but obviously this isn't as bad as cut content as Resident Evil 3 remake, and that's going to be nowhere near my A rank list. I can tell you that right now. But the reason why this is not an S rank is because of some of that cut content, like the zapping system in the true A and B scenarios. If it wasn't for that, this would have been an S rank all day, every day. But I gotta tell it how it is, and that's why it's an A.
See, I'm not a diehard, so the kind of stuff that would tick you off doesn't tick me off. So it's very interesting to see the dynamic between a casual Resident Evil fan and someone who's like really, really into the series. So I wouldn't have picked up on that on the zap feature. I think you said in the true A and B scenarios. I would not have picked up on that. I would just picked up on if I played the game and I liked it. But that's very interesting. Man, I think I'm gonna go down to my B ranks now. I think I'm gonna go down to my B ranks, and I'm gonna start off with this game you played recently on stream, Resident Evil Dead Aim. The
Yeah.
only the big things that are holding me down with this game is really the length and the plot. The plot's just kind of all over the place, to be honest, and the game is very short. I mean, you can beat it in one sitting. You can beat it in. I heard you could beat it in like an hour if you know where everything is. Once you have like infinite ammo and stuff like that, you can beat it under an hour.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, typically the game takes 3 to 4 hours to complete. There's not much to do after the main story. There's not a lot of replayability, and the cast is like what 4 or 5 characters. It's not a very engaging kind of interesting story. And then it's not really the game's fault. It is a lower budget spin-off kind of game.
Hmm.
And it is the fourth entry in the Gun Survivor series, which is not known for its Hideo Kojima level storytelling and stuff like that. But I feel like they could have done more if they really wanted to. Because there is a basis for a way better game than what they delivered. Um, Man, but I don't want to seem so negative on the game, but the things I did like is obviously the gameplay. I like the kind of how it kind of, I don't know if it introduced that what I want to say over the shoulder uh behind the back third person view. I don't know if this is the first Resident Evil game that had it, but it definitely was a huge basis for it. I like the graphics a lot. The visuals, the atmosphere was so. I mean, it kind of took me off guard. I didn't expect the atmosphere to be as chilling as it was, and those are things that really elevated to a B for me. If those things weren't there, it'd probably be honestly probably be a C or a D. But there are a lot of things just that kind of saved the game from being a complete disaster. I don't want to seem too negative on the game because I do like the game and I do enjoy the game. So I'm gonna put it in my B.
That's a very good choice. Fun fact: when I did play it on stream, it took me an hour and 55 minutes. And that's coming from a guy that hasn't played it in 10 years. So take
Wow.
that as you will. So I'm gonna go with one more A rank here, and this is the one that Haruko already mentioned, and that is Resident Evil 5. I I, I love this game so much. Like he said, you go back, like we both said, like you go back and you play Resident Evil 6, and you go back and play Resident Evil 5, you will see the world of difference to how it plays, how it looks, and it makes you appreciate it more. And not only that, it's another sentimental game I have because I have spent time speedrunning this game. So that is why it's my last. This is my last A rank right there.
All right, going back to my B ranks, I'm gonna put in Resident Evil 3 remake and the original Resident Evil 3. Here's the thing. For me, I know a lot of people do not like the remake because of how much cut content it was. But to me, I always saw Resident Evil 3, even the original, I saw it as just a great value version of Resident Evil 2, like a discount version of Resident Evil 2. I've always had really mixed feelings about this game. So when the remake came out and everyone was like, "Oh, it's so short," but I'm like, well, the original Resident Evil 3 isn't some kind of 30-hour fucking Death Stranding adventure. The original is just kind of bare bones as it is, at least from when I played it. But just to be sure, I did go back and play the original Resident Evil 3, and I still had the same feelings. So I'm not as harsh on this remake because, I mean, it's not doing anything that the former game, didn't already do. I mean, it didn't. I didn't come in here with big expectations. It didn't wow me, but it also didn't really disappoint me either. It's just,
Mm.
it's enjoyable. Obviously, if you're a diehard, your opinion will be different than mine because you understand these games better than I do. But just from my perspective as a casual, I always saw Resident Evil 3 Nemesis as Resident Evil 2 with like an extra couple of chapters and stuff. That's always all I saw. I just saw it as like an expansion pack. But obviously, Code Veronica is the true sequel to Resident Evil 2, but we won't get into that. But yeah, I'm gonna put Resident Evil 3 and 3 remake in the B.
That's a good choice. Good choice. And I'm gonna go for a two for here too for my first B ranks here. I'm gonna go Resident Evil Outbreak and Resident Evil Outbreak File 2. And you know, me and Outbreak series have a love hate relationship, but it's mostly a kind of a love relationship. As you know, I could have put this on a C or a D, but today I'm feeling a little generous and I love it right now. So we're gonna go with the B rank, and I love how they set up this Resident Evil game to be like a multiplayer game. And I think this was the first in the series to go multiplayer. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I do believe this is the first time that Resident Evil has gone multiplayer.
At least online.
Exactly. Uh, with that, I do love the scenarios that they put out. Some of them were really well made, and granted, I've never beaten Outbreak File 2, but I did enjoy it. And Outbreak File 1, I did beat, and I obviously enjoyed it. You know, and that's how I feel about that right there.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I'm gonna add those to my A rank as well. Outbreak and Outbreak File 2. I just like what they tried to do. I like that they tried something different with the Resident Evil franchise. They were experimenting with online capabilities. They knew there was a big fan base, and hey, maybe these guys, they want to go on an adventure together. They want to go through witness the madness together. So let's get this online game going, and let's, it wasn't like even like a cheap, cash grabbing, just to kind of cash in on the online phrase. Like, these games, they had heart to them. They had, a lot of care put into them. And sure, it is dated, and a lot of the mechanics fell flat on their face. But I like what it tried to do. It tried to do something different for the franchise that wasn't. It's not different in the sense like it's a drastic departure like Umbrella Corps or something, right? They tried something that still sticks to what the series is about, but expands on that and tries to bring a different dimension to it. So yeah, I have to give it a B. I mean, mostly for the effort, but also just the games are enjoyable. And they're not the best games technically, and they have not aged well, but for what they are and for their purpose, they do a great job.
That's I can agree with that. So here is another B rank here, and this is Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. And I can't in good conscience put Resident Evil 3 remake with Resident Evil 3 because there's a lot of cut content there. I mean, obviously, if you don't think about it that way, I mean, you can still enjoy Resident Evil 3 for remake for what it is, but Resident Evil 3 to me was the best out of the two because not only did you have so much, of the content that the remake didn't have, but you also had the option to pick your own fate. Like when you see Nemesis coming, they put down two options there at the bottom of the screen. You either charge at him and go guns blazing, or you jump into a manhole and you try to outsmart him. And that's why I cannot put Resident Evil 3 remake in a B rank, because of the fact that you don't have the option of choice anymore when it comes to how you fight Nemesis. So that's my B rank is Resident Evil 3 Nemesis.
All right. Oh man. Wow. I think I'm ready to move down to my C ranks already. The field is very closing in. Yeah. For my C rank, my first C rank, I'm gonna put in Resident Evil Revelations 2. Man, it's better than the first one in my opinion, but still, I don't like the episodic format. It restricts. It feels so restrictive. It just feels like the story is holding itself back by putting it into an episodic format. And I mean, I'm sure it was like the reason they did it on the 3DS for Resident Evil Revelations was for their perceived, hardware limitations and stuff like that. So they split it into episodes, at least from the research I've conducted. But Revelations 2, did it really need to be episodic just because the first one was? I mean, they could have just made it a full game.
The thing here with me, though, with it is that they made it episodic, but they also made you wait a week before you got that episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, why do you want a TV format for a video game? There's a reason video games are more profitable than any other medium, because you don't gotta sit there and wait. You don't gotta sit there. It's not like, oh well, imagine if you're playing Sonic Adventure 2 back in 2001, and then you beat half of the hero story. Okay, the other half comes out next week. Then you beat the other half. Okay, the dark story comes out next week. The first half of the dark story. Okay, you beat the first half of the dark story. Okay, now the rest of it comes out next week. Okay, and then you gotta wait another week to play the final story. It's like, I'm playing a video game. I'm not watching a TV series here. I mean, I'm sorry. I understand that they wanted to. I'm sure at the time, with the whole Telltale games and all that, episodic games were and fashion and style and stuff like that. Sure, whatever. But you have the budget. You're Capcom. Just make it a full game. Jesus Christ. I mean, don't waste my time with this. And it kind of ruins the pacing and everything with that. You got to stop and wait. It's a Resident Evil game. It's not an adventure game either. It's a shooter. It's a survival horror shooter game. So it's not really even like Telltale, because that's an adventure game anyway. It's meant to be played like a movie. This is not. So why is it acting as if it is? I never understood that. Besides that, the game is just clunky. Very clunky. There's a lot of technical issues with it. The story leaves so much to be desired. The characters are fucking annoying. And yeah, I mean, I don't mean to be harsh on the game, but actually I do, because I don't fucking like it, but still. I gotta put it in my C. I could have been nasty and put it in the D, but there are some things I like about the game. But yeah, it'll be in my C.
So here's the thing. That's the funny thing here, because we're gonna go to my next B rank, and luckily for me, you know, I bought it after all the episodes was out because I wasn't gonna mess with that. All right. So I'm gonna put Revelations 2 as my B rank. And like I said, I didn't get the pacing troubles as everybody else did when they first bought the game. I bought it once all the episodes were out, and you know, I enjoyed it definitely more than I did Revelations, and that's gonna be something that me and Harko can agree on. It that it's better than Revelations, and the thing is here, you know, I love how you can switch back and forth on a dime. You know, obviously Resident Evil Zero did that, but then you have you know, the story. Sorry about that. I had to turn off my alarm there. I got a little bit distracted. But but with Revelations 2, I liked the details in it, liked how you were able to crouch and shoot, and that's like a first for the Resident Evil series. I do believe, and you know, that's it for that.
All right. Another one that's gonna be in the C for me is Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8. I know that's gonna ruffle a lot of feathers. I'm not a big fan of the first person style. I'm not a big fan of the story. I don't care much about the characters. Um, I don't know. I look at these games, and to me, they don't have the same heart as the ones that I love, like Code Veronica and RE2. And I don't know. Maybe if I years down the line, I might find some appreciation for them, but I don't care about Ethan Winters, I think his name is. I don't care about his stupid fucking daughter. I don't care about. I have no emotional attachment to this game, so I can't, tell you in good faith, oh my god, I love these games a lot. They're so great. They clash with what I feel like a Resident Evil game, in my opinion, should be. And it's not first person. I'm sorry. I don't like the Outlast PT style of survival horror. To me, a survival horror game, or a Resident Evil game rather, is in third person. Whether that's tank controls or that's over the shoulder, to me it's in third person. You can add elements of first person, obviously, but to me it's always going to be a third person over the shoulder. And just besides that, I mean, the boss fights in this game are just it's I'm not gonna get too deep into it, yeah, because I'll just be overly negative, and I didn't come in here to be overly negative. It's why I'm glad we started out with best to worst. But man, yeah, these are C for me. I don't like these games at all.
All right. Yeah, it's different for each person. And, obviously you got to respect people's opinions, and I definitely respect Haruko's opinion on that. really. But I still got three more B ranks here. I'm a little bit behind, so let's get one in here. My next B rank here is Resident Evil Code Veronica X, and this is a game that I'd grown an attachment to when I first got it back in 2000. I remember I was at my grandma's house when this game came out, and my grandma says, "Hey, let's go get a video game." So we went to go get a video game, and this was the game that I chose. And ever since then, I've grown to love this game so much. And there's a thing I would have put this in my A rank, but I have to put it in the B rank just because you know I don't like I gotta tell it how it is. I don't want my A ranks being all cluttered with a whole bunch of games, so I put it in my B rank. But I just love this game to death, and I just played it recently on stream. I think that was a couple of months ago, and yeah, we had a blast with it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Going back to my C ranks. Oh wow. Resident Evil 6, obviously. I mean, Jesus Christ. The reason it's C and not D is because of Leon's story and Leon's story alone. Leon's story is basically the saving grace of this Bullocks game. They could have just made the entire game Leon's story and fucked off with the rest of it, but they had we're Sonic Adventure now. We have all these different stories, and you get to play as all these different characters who mostly all play the same anyway. But yes, and the story is convoluted, and the story drags on, and the story really doesn't make a lot of sense, and they try too hard to make a movie instead of just making a survival horror game, and there's too many quick time events, and blah 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 blah. I could go on all day about how bullocks this game is. I have no desire to ever do a full playthrough of this game. I mean, me and you tried it. I think we only got past Leon's story and Chris's, I think.
I think we barely made it through Chris's because it was so boring.
Yeah, and that's the long and short of where I'm coming from. This game is absolute bullocks. I man, like I said, I didn't come here to be all negative, but when it comes to Resident Evil 6, I just gotta tell how it is. I do not like this game. This game is a black stain on the Resident Evil franchise, and honestly, it should have never been made. That's my opinion. All right.
And the thing here is that they released it almost a month early. It's like if you would have just kept it the original release date and polished it up in that time frame, I bet you it would have been more of an okay game. But with that being said, this right here is a game that I've obviously 15 or so years ago I played a lot of, and this is Resident Evil Zero, on my next B rank game, and I really enjoyed the story of Resident Evil Zero. It really drew me in because obviously we have to have how it all started. It all connected to Resident Evil 1, and this is the first time I've ever seen like the whole prequel after the original concept in video games, because back then I wasn't really into a whole lot of series about Resident Evil, so going back and doing a prequel really interested me to see how it all started. And but the only thing that's holding this back to me was the character zapping system, and I don't like it. That's just all there is to it. Now, if they had a capability of playing that on co-op,
I mean, yes. I mean, this game, when you think about it, it should have been a co-op game. It should have been co-op. I don't understand why. Well, technical limitations probably.
yeah,
But the GameCube was a pretty powerful system. I mean, I don't know. It should have been co-op. Really, when they re-released it, they should have probably tried to work co-op into that. But yeah, I agree with you completely. I have no idea why this game wasn't co-op. I mean, this is a co-op game disguised as a single-player game. So, yeah, I agree with you.
You would think that if they were remastering it for like the PS3, PS4, like you said, they could have easily put in a co-op option in there. I mean, that couldn't have been that hard, right? So, I mean, no, okay, it might have been semi-hard, but it wasn't hard, you know.
Yes.
But yeah,
Um. Oh man, now I'm at the D's. I got a few D's here. Let's start off with Resident Evil Revelations. Terrible plot, terrible characters. The gameplay left so much to be desired. What the fuck was that dodge mechanic? I mean, just such a soulless game to me. The Here's the thing. It came out around the time that everybody was turning on the Resident Evil franchise. So, yes, it was praised heavily at the time because, I mean, what was its competition? Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6, which were very action heavy. Again, Michael Bayish, American blockbuster style imitations. So, yeah, Resident Evil Revelations, and that was like the game for the purists, right? That was like, oh yeah, man, we're going back to where it should be, survival horror, mate. This is the Resident Evil I remember. But today's standards, even as just a Resident Evil game, it doesn't hold up even as a traditional Resident Evil game. Resident Evil 4, from what I've seen, is better. Resident Evil 0 is better. Resident Evil Remake is better. Resident Evil 5 is better. I mean, if it didn't release around that time, this would be a very, very lukewarm reception. But obviously, since it came out during what I call the dark era of Resident Evil, then yes, it got so much praise and it was elevated to a status that it didn't deserve. Again, my opinion. I'm not trying to sound like an elitist here, but it was elevated by Resident Evil elitists, really. Me being casual, when I first played this game, I'm like, what's the big fucking deal? I couldn't care less. So yeah, I give it a D because it's just not a very good game.
that is very, very understandable. Very understandable. And my last B rank game here is Resident Evil Dead Aim. And, obviously, it's been about 10 or so years since I played it. I played it on stream a few days ago, as a matter of fact. And, despite, it's very short, the storytelling was kind of meh. And it seemed pretty linear, too. Very linear. And, and those are the three things that were really holding this game back. I mean, I know Resident Evil is supposed to be mostly linear games, but this game was a little bit too linear, and that's something that held it back for me, and that's why I'm putting it here in the B rank.
All right, and for me in the D rank, and next up is gonna be Resident Evil Reverse. I don't have to explain this. This game is shit. It's trash. It's garbage. There's no explanation needed for why I would put Resident Evil Reverse in the D rank. That's it.
We're getting to the point of the list where most of these are pretty shit. Well, I'm gonna go with Resident Evil 3 remake for my C rank here, and I already kind of explained why I feel this way. Tons of content, the freedom of choice when facing Nemesis being scripted in a couple of places. We don't have time for that scripted bullshit. I want to be able to have freedom to play my game how I feel like it, and that's why I'm putting this at a C.
All right, all right, all right. Next up, the D for me, Operation Raccoon City. Again, not much needs to be said about this piece of fucking garbage. This game is not a Resident Evil game. It's a game that's called Resident Evil, but it is really just it's some kind of fucking Gears of War wannabe that has hunk in it, and you can shoot stuff, and it has zombies in it, so therefore we have to link it to Resident Evil. No, you don't. You really didn't have to, but again, this was the dark era where Capcom was really intent on making Resident Evil something that it shouldn't have been, and didn't want to, and the fans didn't want it to be. Obviously they've course corrected now for the most part, but man, I mean, talking about games that should have never been made, this game should have never been. If they were gonna make it, don't call it Resident Evil. Jesus Christ! I mean, it's such an embarrassment to have this dragging the franchise down. Wow, just wow.
I think the only two things that were connecting, and you said one of them was Hunk, the other one was Leon showing up at the end.
Oh yeah.
The only two things connected.
I forgot about Leon's cameo. Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
All right, so I am going to do Resident Evil Revelations for my first D rank here, and the thing is, they got lazy with this when they ported it from the DS. They pretty much kept it the same game. They didn't, remaster it for current, well, back then current generation systems. But they could have done so much better with this if they did not just keep the original format and formula from the DS version and just copied and pasted onto, PS3, PS4. They could have done this could have been a hell of a lot better of a game on the console ports if they would have just put the effort into this game instead of just lazily copying and pasting it onto that format.
Agreed. For me, next in the D will be Resident Evil Survivor. This game offers nothing to the franchise. It offers nothing to anybody. It serves no purpose, no value, and I just don't like it.
All right. Haruka already explained everything that was wrong with Resident Evil 6, so that's going to be my next D rank. And that's, Haruka already said everything I needed to say. So.
All right, next from me and my D rank, Umbrella Corps. Nothing else needs to be said. Go on.
All right, I'm going to go to the E ranks now because the rest of these don't even deserve to be anywhere near D rank. I'm going to go with a two for here, and that's Reverse and Resistance. And the reason why I put these here is because they are half-assed multiplayer games that shouldn't have been made in the first place. But Capcom, they wanted to try something different, and hopefully they have learned their lesson from these two pieces of shit games that they should not do multiplayer stuff like this at all anymore.
Well, I didn't actually put an E rank on mine, so the D rank for me is the lowest. But yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to add Resident Evil Resistance to my D rank. Oh my god. Terrible. And also, it takes forever to get into a match. Even when the game was at its peak, it took forever to get into a game. And then the games would last like 5 minutes before something glitched out, and then you have to do the process all over again. And the games can last really short anyway, even when you get a full game going. So it's like, don't waste me fucking time with that. I mean, again, remember when I said mostly course correcting? Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that just makes me think Capcom still has a little bit of that ego to where they think they know what's best for the franchise, and they really don't. So they should just leave it to the creators, like the people that are actually putting their hearts into this, not just, oh, you know what, let's do let's cash in on this asymmetric horror opportunity. Oh, let's cash in on this thing. It's like, stop. Just stop. Like, you're not cool. Just stop. And it really is coming from the higher brass of Capcom. You can tell because, I mean, seriously, Reverse and Resistance. Seriously? Like, you cannot tell me there's some old guy up there going, we should really cash in on this Dead by Daylight craze that's going on right now. Really get some of that money sweeping in. We don't think about making a competent game. Just think about the money. It's like, And it's like,
I mean,
yeah,
it's true.
it's sure. Oh yeah, true. Oh, businesses. Oh, they all want to make money, but it's like at the same time, it's like you're also got to service the fans. It can't be all about money. Can't be all about money. And yes, there is something bad with just making something for money. There's something morally wrong with making something for the sole purpose of turning a profit, because you bog down this franchise with needless shovelware garbage. And that's what this is. This is shovelware, and so is Reverse. This is shovelware, and you're bogging down the franchise and sullying the name of the franchise. Resident Evil is a brand. And when you release stuff like this, it hurts the fucking brand. I mean, Nintendo even knows. If Nintendo wanted to, do some of the shit Capcom does, I mean, even they know better than do stupid stuff like Resistance and Reverse.
You know,
But it's like, oh, how dare a company want to make money? Well, yeah, it's still a bad thing when you're doing it just for the sole purpose. Corporate greed is not. It's not excused just because you have to make money. No, it doesn't excuse corporate greed. Corporate greed is corporate greed. Greed is greed, and it's a fucking sin. And this game is a fucking sin that should not have ever, 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 ever gotten past a conversation in a fucking a crack whore's house. It should have just been buried with the cocaine that they had it with. I mean, Jesus Christ, absolute garbage, drivel, just shame on the franchise. Wow.
that was something else. Yeah. Well, man, you said it correctly. It should have never been, never should have never gotten green past the green light, and then that's just the way it is. Uh I only have about 3 games left here. The other 3 games I haven't really played, so I can't really, make past judgment on them because I haven't played them. But my next two options are going to be for the next rank is Umbrella Corps and Umbrella Corps, and enough needs to be said, and that's it's shit. Can't get past it. It's garbage, and shame on you, Capcom. Shame on you for putting these vile pieces of shit on the streets. So there you go.
Resident Evil Gaiden, I'm gonna put that in the D. It was a good attempt, but Jesus Christ, what an embarrassment. Yeah.
And my last one, I said I liked it on stream, but I was really kind of lying. But I'm gonna put Resident Evil Survivor as an F rank. It got the big thumbs down. You know, I didn't enjoy the gameplay. I didn't enjoy the story. I didn't enjoy the first person view because on PlayStation 1 era games, you should never have first person view on with how shit the graphics were. Just everything about this is a mess to me, and then that's going to be it.
Yeah, my last one, since I haven't played Resident Evil 4 or Mercenaries 3D, is gonna be Biohazard Gun Survivor 2 or Resident Evil Survivor 2. Um, I mean, I don't really need to get into English. It's my first language. I don't really need to get into depth with this one because, I mean, it really is just the same game as the first one. So I just it is what it is. Again, something that shouldn't have existed. But what can we do? It exists, and we have to deal with its awfulness. So yeah, that's it for me.
With that, now that's all the games that we got here. Obviously, like I said, the last 3 games that I have on my list I haven't played, so I can't really judge with that. And I think that these lists are pretty good. They're pretty good, and I really enjoyed doing this with you, Haruko. Do you have any final words for our people out there?
Yes, I do have a couple of final words. Remake Code Veronica.
Words, fucking love you, man. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for watching. Me and Haruko will be back again. We like doing this content for you guys, and this is gonna be a pretty long video. So I hope you guys got your popcorn ready because you're probably gonna need it. So with that being said, Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.